Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the world's best investing podcast. This morning, I reached the conclusion that not buying IREN was a mistake of omission for me for three reasons. One, after IREN's last earnings report, I already clearly saw AI doubling its capabilities every 6 months. And although that presents vast upside for pure software plays like Palantir and Duolingo, it was also pretty apparent to me that we were going to see a resource glut as a result of that, meaning we wouldn't have enough resources like energy and data centers to keep up with AI. So that was clear to me. Secondly, after that earnings report, I clearly saw IREN's ability to convert capital into data centers. That was very apparent at a very high level. And thirdly, that the backdrop being that really no one else has such an ability. There's a bunch of other companies, but you don't have to bet on all of them. You just have to bet on one which has extraordinary management, a great track record, and has an inordinate capability of doing whatever it is they do. Really, that's all you have to do when you bet on hyper-growth parts of the economy. It's a little bit like semiconductors. It probably didn't really matter much whether you decided to bet on NVIDIA or AMD 10 years ago. It probably won't even matter much over the next 10 years. Once you buy a winner in a hyper-growth area of the economy, you're still going to get very rich. So then going back to my last video, in which I explained that I couldn't quite understand how generally investors were struggling so much to work with these exponential assumptions and realities that we are seeing, I myself have fallen victim to that, clearly with this example. Because these three axioms of sorts, these three realities were evident to me. And although I have a portfolio that I'm quite comfortable with, and I actually quite like, and I think it's going to do very well, I myself struggled to deal with these abstractions to take a decision. I'm not an energy expert. I'm not a data center expert, but I think this situation was actually very clear to me. Maybe this takes time. Maybe, and I don't think it's quote unquote too late. I think that if AI scaling laws persist, IREN probably has a century long runway ahead, obviously with the ups and downs and corrections and everything. So you don't have to buy a company right at the outset, but it was right in front of me. And so it was a mistake. It's similar to other mistakes of omission that I may have done in the past, like say Netflix in 2022. It's not in nature a similar mistake to the previous ones that I did over the past few years, like Amorous and stuff. That was different. That was sort of investing outside of my quote-unquote mantra, which is invest in businesses that are solving a growing volume of acute customer pains in a way that's increasingly harder to replicate while producing cash that can then be reinvested to solve more acute customer pains in a way that's increasingly harder to replicate. That's sort of the mantra that I look for. In this case, this company is a perfect instance of that mantra, that definition, and I let it slip. So mistake of omission. Then the next question is, do I potentially exit one of my positions to buy this thing? And I think for now the answer is no, because I still think that, one position I could liquidate to jump on this one, potentially. Could be Duolingo. The rest have been somewhat validated. Maybe even HIMS, but not really. I think the market has already validated these investments because they are multi-baggers. And what I really like about Duolingo is that it's a pure software play. So at the moment, the market is relatively pessimistic about it. And there are some narratives which, in my view, are highly disconnected from the value creation process. But I do think that the software thing pays massive dividends over the next decade because there's just no friction. And I think we already saw that with in the last earnings report with the evolution of the chess vertical. I think it hit $1 million quicker than anything anywhere else. So I choose to remain long Duolingo, but I acknowledge the mistake here. And I think it's a very interesting exercise in terms of I do have the capability of addressing exponential dynamics elsewhere, but this one was sort of a more complex situation for me to apply that, and I ultimately couldn't, and it was a mistake. So one to learn from. I'm still going to continue tracking the company over time because, as you know, these companies do generate fortune creating opportunities repeatedly. So growth stocks do fall 50, 60% plus over time, and for no reason. You just have to be good at understanding that it's actually for no reason. A great example of that was Netflix declining 70% in 2022 after a decade of decimating everything else performance-wise. So it really pays off to be studying companies over the long term. And I think it does pay off to acknowledge mistakes like this, because I think it makes you better at applying mental models. So guys, that's it for today. Tonight we have Palantir and HIM's earnings. Tomorrow it's Spotify and AMD. Wednesday it's Duolingo. So it's going to be a very exciting week. So I'll be covering these earnings and I'll be dissecting them very carefully. So have a good one, guys. If you enjoyed this video, could you please share this with one friend whom you think will enjoy it? As you know, these deep dives and updates are for free, and so the only way this grows is with your help. So thank you very much in advance. Take care and see you next time.